Hi. If my bed seems a little bit lower than usual, that's because I'm sleeping on a mattress. I've been sleeping on a broken bed frame for what must have been like, if not close to a year, then over a year, right? So I just thought after this neck pain, after I got shot in my neck and shot in my back, I'm thinking, fuck this, man. What I decided to do was take my bed frame out of this room and I put it into the other room so that like when my new bed comes, I can get rid of that old bed at the same time. So I'm getting a new bed. This mattress thing is just temporary, but I have to admit, it's super comfortable, like for me and my back, and it's been really helpful when it comes to the pain. And also what's really been helpful as well is the hot weather, because we've had a heat wave over here for the last couple of weeks. I think we've like last few weeks actually, because there's been a heat wave over here and the weather is extremely hot. The muscles are more relaxed, so there's less, like when it's cold, the muscles tend to contract, and it's a natural thing to protect your body and to protect your bones. But when it comes to the torture, it's absolutely horrendous. Like in cold weather, when your muscles are attacked, when your bones are attacked, the pain is horrendous in cold weather. But in hot weather, that you have an easier time because your muscles are already more relaxed. So by the time the torture stops, the pain ebbs away like quite easily. And I'm not gonna hold you, right? For somebody like me who lifts weights every day, I don't do that much. I'm not like strength training or anything like that. Like I'm not like a hardcore gym rat or anything, but like I lift weights occasionally. I've been doing it more often now than I usually do. And you know, when you exercise your muscles, I don't think it's going to surprise anyone to know that you have a quicker response time. Cardio is dangerous for me because like during cardio, like I told you guys, even during walking, the gangstalkers have tried to stop my heart multiple times, and that's just by walking. So they've tried to stop my heart and attack my breathing more than once, and that's just by me walking normally and just getting on with my life. So doing cardio is a dangerous thing for me. But doing like weights, weight training, even when your body is in pain, because of the effect it has on your muscles, it's actually cushioning your skeleton. It's cushioning your bones. That's why muscles are so important. You know, resistance training is so important because your muscles are cushioning your skeleton. And if they're cushioning your skeleton, it means you have a quicker recovery time. Weight training is one of the reasons why after I was attacked brutally, you know, 2021, June 2021, one of the reasons I was able to recover quickly, apart from the fact that the weather was warmer, was because I have very strong muscles naturally because of my family and my genetics. So I already have strong muscles genetically. And then on top of that, I've been moving all my life. So I'm used to carrying like lots of heavy weights and stuff like that. And then even without that, I like to lift sometimes. You know, I don't do like massive amounts, but I like to lift sometimes. I like to lift weights. So all of that over the years has created a certain resistance where I am able to recover quickly even from remote torture. Yeah. My gang stalkers have often bemoaned to the perps about how tough I'm supposed to be and how, you know, the torture isn't working as effectively or it's barely touching me. That's because like I have a lot of lean muscle. Do you understand what I mean? Because of my genetics. So I have to admit, exercise, I actually discouraged exercise at one point, but now I'm starting to understand like exercise, like even if you're not going to go for a run, like lifting weights, is very, very important because it allows your body to recover more quickly, and it really helps with your posture. It helps with your posture, it helps with everything, it even helps with your stamina. So that is a very important part of why I've recovered from this so quickly. I still get sharp pains in my neck, right? But I've recovered very, very quickly, and that's partially because of the exercise. And again, it's because I've removed that fucking broken bed frame that, you know, and I'm sleeping on a mattress on the floor now. That's another reason why I can recover quickly. That's another reason why I'm able to recover quickly, because I've got a mattress on the floor. So I'm getting better. The pain is easing. I didn't have to do very much to recover, even though I've had people helping me. I've had people give really good advice, give excellent advice to me, like just the most practical and intelligent advice you could give a person in this situation. But because of the hot weather over here, and because I exercise, and because of all that, I recover very quickly. So it didn't take much. It really didn't take much in the end. And plus, gang stalkers are reluctant to like have me screaming down the place, because they don't want to make the perps uncomfortable. So that's another factor, right? So they don't go overboard. So all of these factors are the reasons why I'm able to recover quickly. So that's the progress on my pain management. I'm still able to shower, still able to groom myself. Like, you can tell by my skin. I've been grooming myself, and I've been like looking after my skin. You can actually tell. So that hasn't been an issue. That really hasn't been an issue. But that's not actually why I came online to talk to you guys. The reason I came online to talk to you guys is that I left a post on my Facebook talking about borderline personality disorder. And there was one photo that was a tweet that said, yes, we're going to be grumpy, aggressive, this, that, and the third. We don't mean to be, please bear with us. So that's the first image. The second image is that people are not mindful of the symptoms of BPD. And when BPD people ask you to do something simple, like watch the tone of your words, or to be as straightforward as possible, it's often met with scorn, derision, and defensiveness. So those were the two images that I posted on my Facebook. The second one in particular, I felt like made really good points. I'm coming to a point, I swear. I'm just giving you some background. So I posted those two images on my Facebook, and I actually said, yeah, it's important to give yourself grace, but it's also important to give other people grace. Long story short. But then I started thinking about how the relationship with borderline personality disorder, like your relationship with borderline personality disorder, interacts with gang stalking. And it really got me thinking. Because one of the things that I said about borderline personality disorder was this. When you are grumpy and you are aggressive and you are tetchy, right? You know, as a borderline personality disorder person, you do deserve grace. But the catch-22 is that it has to be you that gives yourself that grace. Let me explain. Guilt and shame are not wasteful emotions. I will never ever say that they're wasteful. I will never ever say that they're useless. They're not useless emotions. Yeah? I think at some point I used to say that guilt and shame were a waste of time. They're not a waste of time. Because guilt reminds you that you're human, and shame reminds you when you have behaved in a way that is outside yourself. So shame is about connecting with who you are, and guilt is about connecting with other people. So I will never ever say, if I've ever said that guilt and shame are useless, I will never say that again. But this is the thing with borderline personality people. Sometimes we feel so much guilt and so much shame that it kind of goes in the other direction, and we convince ourselves that we were right in what we were doing, or we were justified in what we were doing. The guilt and shame turns in on itself. And I don't even think that's just a borderline thing. I think that's a human being thing, because I've seen it in people who don't have neurodivergence. and don't have borderline and don't have any of these things, they do the same shit. When they feel guilty and they feel really ashamed, they do not admit what they did because it's too traumatic for them to do. Right? So when I give myself grace as a borderline personality disorder for my anger and my violence and my fucking, my anger, my violence and my abuse, and yes, borderline personality disorder can make you abusive. When I give myself grace for those things, that for how I feel, when I give myself grace for how I feel, instead of me thinking that I'm right to be the way that I am, I'm actually able to separate the behavior from who I am as a person. And that allows me to take accountability for how I treat people. It allows me to take accountability more easily. Not because I hate myself, but because of the direct opposite. Because I love myself. Because I love myself enough to feel ashamed that I behaved in a way that is not worthy of me. Because I feel guilty enough to love myself and see the same flaws that I project, to see the same flaws that I project onto others in my own character. So self-love is a huge thing. Radical self-love is a huge thing when it comes to taking accountability for your actions. But here's the rub though. When you are in gangstalking, you're in a war. You're in a war, which means accountability and empathy have to be at a minimum. You're in a situation where the worst parts of yourself, and in particular case, your sensitivity, rejection, dysphoria, and your like emotional dysregulation, these things are weaponized against you to take you outside of yourself. But it's in that moment where you are taken outside of yourself that you're able to strike a blow against gangstalking. That's the rub, yeah? When you are in a war, it's not that accountability and empathy go out the window, but you have to have that shit at a minimum in order to win the war, or just to be able to fight in this war. Because remember, gangstalking is not just about a few people giving you shit. It is a systemic trafficking and torture and genocidal system. It is systemic, and it revolves around taking both targeted individuals and perps and and perps as well as gangstalkers outside of ourselves in order to win against one another. Yeah? So there are no good guys and no bad guys in this thing. There are only protagonists and antagonists. And what I've learned as a targeted individual is that you can have good people and bad people on both sides. The difference is that if us targeted individuals win, or when we win, we're going to protect God knows how many people on this planet who have also been marginalized. Because gangstalking is rooted in white supremacy, it's rooted in cultural hegemony, it's rooted in patriarchy. So when we fight, and when we fight dirty, and when we don't take accountability for how we treat the perps, when we don't take accountability for how we treat the gangstalkers, when we don't give a single fuck, when we give a minimal fuck about how going outside ourselves affects the gangstalkers and the perps, it means that we're actually getting shit done. It means we're getting shit done. It means we're moving forward. Because in a fight, that's what has to happen. You've got to move forward. There has to be a resolution. Or at the very least, you have to gain some control over your own life. And sometimes you're not going to do that unless you do that by force. But that involves going outside of yourself, not really taking that much accountability and not really having that much empathy towards the people that are trying to kill you, or towards the people that are killing you slowly. Because to have empathy for those people and to have accountability is to not survive. To have empathy and to have accountability is to not survive when it comes to being a TI. Right? And when it comes to the perps and, you know, the gang stalkers, to show any empathy towards us and to show any compassion towards us and to show any accountability for their actions would be to stop this thing immediately. It would be to stop this thing immediately. They're not going to do that because there's too much money at stake. There's too many laws that have been broken. There are too many people invested in keeping these secrets. There's too much going on for them to turn cold, especially those with families. There's too much stock involved in them turning and saying, you know what, fuck this gang stalking shit. I'm not doing it anymore. It's an even bigger risk to come round here, to come round to TIs and tell us everything. Walking away from gang stalking alone is a big risk, let alone having the empathy and the accountability to tell us what's going on and to keep us armed with the facts so that we're not always guessing all the time. That takes a huge amount of accountability and a huge amount of empathy that could be fatal for them. So we have to treat it as though it could be fatal for us, because in a lot of cases it has been. I hate to say it, but there are a lot of targeted individuals who died without getting justice when they didn't have to. They didn't have to die without getting justice. They were going to die anyway. They didn't have to die without giving the gang stalkers a bloody nose, like metaphorically speaking. There are many TIs who let their empathy and their accountability lead. And all it's gotten us are more martyrs when we need to be saving lives. Don't get me wrong, right? We need good people on our side when it comes to targeted individuals. We need good people on our side. We need people who are accountable and ethical and, who want to do things the right way. We need those things. We need those people. But every single TI being like that is not going to get this shit done. So ironically, the same program where borderline rage and rejection sensitivity, dysphoria, all of these things are used against BPD people. The irony is that when you actually know how to play it, these same symptoms that take you outside of yourself can actually empower you and save lives in the process. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Because again, your flaws are already being used against you as a targeted individual. Your flaws are already being either exaggerated or straight up made up to blacken your name with people that might be in a position to help you. It's already being used to blacken your name. So playing into those flaws, playing the villain, playing the bad guy, it can be very dangerous. But it can also be an empowering move when you have borderline personality disorder, because those same rages and that same deep sense of humiliation and codependency that they bring out in you, they can actually be your weapons to use against people who are trafficking, torturing, and killing you. But this is a war. The same accountability that borderline people should have, the same empathy that borderline people should have in order to be better people, gang stalking doesn't allow a whole lot of room for that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't make the choice to empathize. I'm not saying that you can't make the choice to be empathic. I'm sorry, my eyes look weird. In life, everybody always has a choice. Yeah? So I'm not about to sit here and say that you don't have a choice. You don't get to be empathic. You don't get to be accountable. You get to do that no matter what situation you're in. But in a war, it doesn't help you win. Accountability and ethics do not help you win. The same things that would be like, that would impair a borderline person as a, in normal life, the same things that impair us in normal life, it can actually be a strength in gang stalking, because they're already villainizing you. So what do you have to be worried about? But this is a war, yeah. This is a war, which means, yeah, being your best self. You can try to be your best self if you want to, but being your best self is out if you want to survive and if you want to actually help people who want to end gang stalking win this war. So we're borderline with that rage that we get, that codependency that we get, that fucking, that fucking clinging that we get, that, the way we keep people on edge with our emotions, that can actually help us. Because the thing is that that's what gang stalkers are trying to do to us anyway. That's what the perps are trying to do to us. That's what that's what everybody involved in this program that are against TIs are trying to do to us. So the fact that just with our borderline personality disorders alone, we can keep everybody else on edge, that's a fucking strength. That's a fucking strength. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say this program does not encourage or foster us to be our best selves. Not if you want to survive. And that's the catch-22 of this whole thing. As a borderline person, I would like to have normal relationships where stuff like this is not necessary. I want to have relationships where, me crashing out is not necessary. Where me being angry and aggressive are not necessary. I would love to have relationships where I can be accountable and I can be held accountable properly for abuse that I've inflicted in the past, I have inflicted emotional abuse. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I would like to be in a normal life where emotional abuse and all of these things have to be held accountable. I would like to be held accountable. But when you're in a war, accountability is not impossible, but it would be a stupid thing to do. Because it would mean that you're playing by an honor system that your enemies don't play. And they would give themselves access to resources that you're too moral to contemplate. So yeah, that whole conversation about borderline, it really made me think about how accountability and empathy work in a setting where you're basically fighting an invisible war and you can't afford to be on the same path to enlightenment and evolution as other people might be. On the one hand, it makes me sad, but then on the other, I can't help but feel a little bit relieved. Because the same things that I should be held accountable for in normal society, if I don't want to learn, I don't have to. Not if I want to win. Because the perps are not going to learn. The gang stalkers are certainly not going to learn. They don't give a fuck. So, I have all these natural resources within me that can put me on an even playing field without needing the manpower, without needing weapons. I have all that, or I have all these resources within me that I can use. As sad as it is, it's also a relief. You know. But yeah, it really does make you think. It really does make you think. Accountability and empathy. In a war, it nagasa. It nagasa. Can't have that in a war. Not in large capacity. So, yeah. Yeah. Again, when it comes to gang stalking, there are no good guys and bad guys. There are good and bad people on the TI side and on the perp side. On both sides, there are good and bad people. But only one side are the protagonists. The other side are the antagonists in the story of our own lives. The perps are the antagonists in their own lives, let alone ours. Whereas we TIs, we're the protagonists here. We're the ones who are fighting not even just against government. We're fighting against literal hegemony, cultural hegemony. Yeah, we're fighting against cultural hegemony. We're fighting against cultural monopoly. We're fighting against a crystallized system meant for the very worst people on the planet. That's literally what we're fighting against. We're the fucking protagonists in our own story. And we don't even realize it. Don't even realize it. But unfortunately, it means it means we don't have to be good people. And I say unfortunately because being a good person is that's the goal. That's the goal. But not if we want to win. When I look at some of the most important people in human rights, in fighting for the rights of people, when you really look at some of these people, a lot of them are sociopaths, you know. A lot of them have either they're sociopaths or they're psychopaths or they're narcissists or they're not good people. Or rather, they have antisocial personality disorders. And they are neurodivergent, some of them, untreated. When I think about the people who got the most shit done, when you really look at their history, they are not good people at all. But they had a goal and they had a dream and they had a vision. And if they were better people, if they were more empathic, if they were more accountable, they would never have been able to accomplish what they actually accomplished. Some of these people. Some of these people are really not good people. In the same way, a lot of these white supremacists are fucking foul. But hear what? The bad people on our side, some of the bad people on our side, not all of them, but some of them, protagonists. Some of the bad people on the other side, fucking antagonists. Even the good people on the other side, antagonists. Because what they're ultimately fighting for is an evil that corrodes the soul of humanity and that wastes resources, that wastes energy, kills off God knows how many species of bird and fish and insect, getting in the way of fucking food supplies. And in much the same way, like just being goody two-shoes and relying on laws that these motherfuckers have made quite clear they don't care about is not going to get shit done. And that's when BPD symptoms, the BPD rage, the rejection sensitivity dysphoria, these things can really come in handy when it comes to fighting for the preservation of not only our planet, but the diversity within it. This shit ain't a game, man. It's serious. It's serious. And not only are we fighting for not only are we fighting for the natural world, or we're fighting for what's right, not only are we doing that, we're fighting to keep communities safe and clean and peaceful and happy. We're fighting for that too. That's exactly what I'm saying. The protagonist of the fucking story. You've got TIs over here who not only have untreated borderline personality disorder and untreated post-traumatic stress disorder, you've got TIs who are addicts. You've got TIs who are not good people. You've got TIs who are selfish. But hear what? Because they're so determined to fight this fucking thing, they immediately find themselves on the right side of history. Because we're not just fighting to keep the world safe. We're fighting to keep our community safe, healthy, and happy for everyone. That's what we're fighting for. You think our fucking feelings are the most important things in the world? No. Not by a long fucking shot. But because of the situation. It's because of the situation. That's why it's this way. Not because I'm a better person than the perps. A lot of the times I'm not. It's just that in this particular case, my flaws are useful. You know? And that's the unfortunate thing. It's a fortunate thing, and it's an unfortunate thing at the same time. The things that are necessary for the recovery of mental health issues and neurodivergence, it can be a detriment to fighting against gang stalking. It can be a detriment. Especially for people like me who are naturally inclined to turn what they don't want into something that they do want. Or to use lower things to achieve higher aims. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on that one. Take from that what you will. I've actually been exercising today. You know. Hang on, let's see our teeth. The teeth look okay. Not brilliant, but okay. Been trying to look after my teeth a bit more lately. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Peace. Bye-bye.